So thanks for joining me, dude. For
Thanks for
anybody who
having me.
doesn't, yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, this is Fly in Formation. It's a spin-off from my weekly mix show. I do a weekly mix show called After the Smoke is Clear at Sick, where I'm playing an hour worth of indie hip hop every week. I do my best just to tap in with scenes across Canada. It's 100% Canadian hip hop every week, all new release stuff, and kind of to build on that, I decided to start doing interviews with different artists whose music I've been playing. So today, joining me, of course, is Trippz from the Doom Squad, Edmonton-based MC. Uh, Happy to have you, man. You got a brand new album out called Water. I think it's what, 2 months old now, coming up on 2 months.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 2 months, I think. The
Yeah.
January. No, it was right in the beginning of February 5th. I dropped it.
Okay. Yeah. Word. So almost 2 months, Mark. Then. So how have you been busy with kind of like extra promo and shit like that since dropping it, or what's the past couple of months look like? How's the response?
The response has been really good. To be honest, like I didn't really expect too much of like a monumental reaction from people, just because I sat on this album for 7 years, and it was done. It was ready to go. I could have released it 100,000 times, but it had to be perfect, and the release structure had to be perfect, and everything about it had to be perfect. And I found myself kind of getting into this, like I was like locked. I was like couch locked, and I couldn't actually get it out. So I just decided the only way to get it out is to just put it out. Don't have any expectations on results. It's the best piece of music I've made so far. Just let them hear it. And if it's going to build some traction, it's going to build some traction. But regardless of what this album does, it's supposed to represent for me kind of like a momentum that I want to continue to build.
Okay, so it's just the first step into kind of a solo journey. Because am I right in thinking this is your first solo album?
It is my second solo album, but the first one I put out, it was like some high school, like you'll never hear it. You'll never
Way
hear it,
back.
but
Okay,
I
yeah,
still
sure.
count it.
All right, yeah, sounds good. So, but of course, everybody knows you from the work you did with Doom Squad, and this is definitely a bit of a change up from that. I assume quite a conscious change up from that. Are you going to be taking your own solo music kind of more in this direction with the melody and less rappity rap kind of stuff?
I don't know, because in the process of putting out this album, I found myself nostalgic about the rapidy raps. It's definitely like the culture that birthed me.
Right.
It's definitely where I came into the music scene. It's definitely where I met the most people. It's where I have the most cohorts. It's where, I have the most collection of music as a fan. But I've always had a bit more of an interest in a more wide range of music than all of my peers. And before I'd even had a conceptualization of like what this would look like for me, I decided that rap is where I'm started, but it's not necessarily where I'm going to finish off.
Yeah.
And so I don't I don't know. I think I'm blessed enough to be in an era where nobody really gives a shit if you stick to a lane. Like
Definitely.
that used to be a problem. That used to be a problem. And so I think now I'm really just enjoying, it's all very experimental. Anytime I have kids now, so time in the booth is fewer and further between. But when I do get in there, I get to just see what works. And that's
Right.
really refreshing.
So when you were putting this one together, did you end up with a bunch of songs and then kind of cut it down to, I think it's 11 tracks or something along those lines? But did you end up cutting some stuff where you were, getting a little more
Yeah.
rapidy rap lyrical and keep it just more to this melodic tip?
Honestly, so the origin of this whole style, this whole me adopting this new style, was I was actually in a program. I was in school. I was in Pixel Blue College studying digital audio production. And as a producer, the final project was to executive produce a project. And I don't know if you know, like a lot of people don't actually know that a producer is not a beat maker. A producer is someone that oversees the general production of the project to its completion. So like Dr. Dre is a producer,
Okay.
Timbaland is a producer. They're also composers, but their role falls mainly under producer. So
So it's,
my
can you
assignment,
Sorry, can you elaborate the difference between a producer and an executive producer? Because what you were just saying is what I've always thought of as like the album's executive producer is kind of the guy sitting in the background, not necessarily hands on anything, but
I think the definitions have gotten rather muddy, but
right.
yeah, a producer handles production, and
Okay.
an executive producer, if it was a big enough project that they would have multiple
Yeah.
people on the team, then there would be an executive producer who's all the decisions and all of the alterations and everything goes through that person, right? Like an hourglass, and then there's a bunch of producers, right? It's not at this level, you're never going to see a big team like that.
Right.
So a
Yeah.
producer is generally the executive producer when we're talking about where we are at scale.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And so my assignment was to produce or executive produce a project. And because I was an artist coming into this, I decided that I wanted to benefit from that assignment. And so I had other guys in the class who were like hiring rappers, hiring session artists, getting beat makers, collaborating with people, which is dope. But
Yeah.
I already kind of had a rudimentary knowledge of how to do all that shit when I entered the course. And so I like kind of really put up the walls and I just decided like to focus on what I have yet to do, which is oversee the production and like completely start to finish. I make the call, I make the decision. Cause when I was younger, it was all about the vibe. I would just show up at the studio and I would just do my thing. And I had no real plans until one day I wake up and I had 25 songs and I'm like, oh, I could do a thing. And so like, it was never like, you never had a plan. You were just all about the hype. Now that I have a plan, it was like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I have my hands in every aspect, right? Because I'm not going to settle for anything less than what I saw in my head.
Right.
And so, yeah, there was 12 songs altogether in that program, and at the end of the school, I was the only person, as far as I know, I was the only person in the history of that entire course to get 100% on his final project, which I
Damn.
think was really cool.
Congrats,
Um,
man. Yeah.
moving
Uh,
forward 7 fucking years, I dropped 2 songs off that album and another song that made some other time with another producer, a different time in my life, I felt fit the album, so I added it to the album. So I went from 12 to 10 to 11.
okay. So this was 6 or 7 years ago. You said that you went into that engineering school then.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was right after my last tour, which was I think 2017. So 2018 was when I went in the course.
Okay, so I've been doing After the Smoke is Clear for 6 years now, and I remember playing like a string of singles from you. There was like, I don't know, Trap Drone, and I can't think of the name of all of them, but there was a string of singles that you were putting out in like, I want to say 2019, 2020-ish. That was like
Mm-hmm.
real early when I was starting with the radio show. And it was stuff that wasn't, you were still rapping on that, right? Like that was very much rap songs, those tracks. Were those some of the tracks that you were recording in that same program then, and they just weren't right for the album, kind of?
No, actually, so again, with me sitting on the album, me trying to be a perfectionist about it. One of the issues was if I put this out, it's gonna drastically change my brand. If I'm like focusing on a brand,
Sure.
when you were still focusing on how to keep it into your lane, it was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna commit to this project, this style, I have a lot. I was sitting on 20, 30 songs from my past that were aggressive and all over the map, kind of like Trap Drone, Check Your Company, which was like kind of like a heavy metal kind of song, and there was Easy Peasy, a bunch. It was all over the place, and I'm
Something
sitting
about
on
like
this
Drop or something was one of them. Yeah,
Drop
there
a
were a
Ting,
bunch of
yeah,
them.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah, right.
it was all very very mismatched, and so I had an issue where it was like, okay, well, I almost don't really want to put this out until I can put out all this shit, because if I put it out posthumously, it's gonna feel irrelevant and weird. And so I was a little worried about that. That was like chapter 1 of getting in my fucking head about releasing this album.
Posthumously, do you mean to say that this is like the death of old Trippz, and now you're into uh, the new?
Honestly,
Okay,
I will say I won't say much about that, but I will say that I am now a father of 2,
sure.
and since the beginning of this vibe that I'm now sharing, I was in the middle of a lot of existential change. And there was a lot of stuff happening in my life that was like really really significant, even still today, that I'm now like dealing with, and I'm like trying to work on self work, and there's a lot of stuff, and I'm just, I'm 5 years old, and I'm just now feeling like just right on the right at the doorway to adulthood, you know. And
Yeah.
there was a lot. There's always been a lot, and you know what, ADHD, Tourette syndrome. I have all these diagnoses, and whatever. That's not an excuse, but my point is, frequently I have to reassess who the fuck I am, and who I am to me, and who I want to be perceived as by other people. And so, you know, in 7 years, like shit, that could happen every 3 months. In a span of 7 years, I could reinvent myself a fucking dozen times.
For
And
sure.
like figure it, not literally. I'm okay. Okay. No need to hashtag, mental health, whatever. There has been a lot of times that killing off Trippz has been up for question. And it's not because I don't like the music that I'm making. It's not because I don't like my brand. It's not because I don't like what I've created so far. But again, in the world that we just left, where your lane, such a stupid metaphor, your lane is all that matters, right?
Right.
And and being a part of that era, it was, I wanted freedom. I wanted the same freedom that I had when I started to just create and be creative. And I love music, and fuck rap. It's not about rap. I love rap. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a hip hop enthusiast, but fuck it. It has no, if if I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, but if hip hop doesn't accept me, well, that's not the end of me, because
Yeah.
me does music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
You don't owe
so
hip hop
it
anything,
was
man. Right.
yeah. And so, I was in my head, and I'm like, I feel like I owe so much to Trippz, and it was all Trippz. And you know what? I was growing up. Trippz was growing up in my hometown. I was growing up, and if we're looking at it like a brand, it felt messy.
Right.
Being who I was, and like learning how to be who I am as an adult. Well, I was out there in the streets being a fucking fool for a good portion of it, right? Learning how to be an adult, like learning to get messy, doing all that shit. And my personal experience quickly became attached to my outward facing brand.
Right.
And I just wanted the best possible reach without any extra baggage. So I don't know what I look like in 5 years from now. I don't know if I'm still Trippz. I don't know if I'm even making music, but I do know that right now I'm putting everything that I can in front of me, and just like being less concerned about how it looks, and being more concerned about the fact that I need to do it. I
Yeah.
need to do it in order to function. I need to do it in order to process the shit that's happening in my head. Long before I had a fan or a listener, I had a need to put it out somewhere. And that's what it's got to be again. I just
Yeah.
got to make it, and I got to put it out. You know what I
Nice,
mean?
man. I mean, I really enjoyed this album, dude. I think you put together a really solid piece of work. It plays, front to back really cohesively and just smoothly throughout the entire thing. I'm not surprised that they gave you 100% on that project, man. I mean,
Thank you.
uh, yeah, man, that's it's a hell of a project. And, I think the evolution of an artist is something that shouldn't stagnate them into one spot, right? I think when people get too much in their head trying to fill the same shoes that they've already been walking in,
Hmm.
it can kind of feel like being locked in a box or whatever a little bit,
Really though,
creatively.
like honestly, let's talk about that for a quick second, bro. Like,
Yeah,
because hip hop, man, it originated as a means to survive a disproportionate amount of um, prejudice,
yeah,
and um, like judgment, and like there's a word for it that it,
a lot of
like
systematic
trauma.
oppression holding people down too, right?
Oppression.
Yeah,
Oppression. Thank you.
yeah,
Oppression. And it has now evolved into one of the most oppressive cultures available today.
right,
Now, this is not me detesting hip hop. This is not me, denouncing it. But I will say that when I came into enjoying hip hop, to where I am now, which is like kind of learning where my identity fits within these genres and within these styles is I don't necessarily feel as connected as I did when I first started. Like, for example, when this Drake and Kendrick shit was happening, I heard
Yeah.
a lot of rhetoric floating around the internet, like hip hop is alive again, like hip hop is saved
Right.
because of two rich niggas beefing. Like, really? And like, look, I get it. I get the sentiment, and I get that there's been something that's been missing from the feeling and from the culture, but I never did I feel more detached than when I conceptualized that, like as a concept, like as something that is like a commonly thought of thing, like people that are searching for what hip hop is, and then, you know, two niggas beef it out publicly, and it was probably just a publicity stunt, and somebody won a Grammy, and but now the lawyers,
And they
that's
both
hip
work for the
hop,
same
bro.
company, right?
Like,
That's
what
the
the
thing to me
fuck?
is like they both
That
work
was
for the
that
same
was
company.
that
Like,
was Coke and Pepsi going at it, and you're telling me that, oh, I
not
don't
even
know,
that, bro.
like
It's like Coke versus Vanilla Coke or something. Like it was
word,
like two
word.
people from Universal Music Group, and like you said, like two of the biggest acts out there. You know, I think that there is something to be said for like, okay, hip hop came back to, oh, now people want to hear more artistry and less just like making hits for the club or whatever, maybe.
Yeah,
And I think there's something valid about that, but at the same time, yeah, you got to question it when it's like, hey, but these guys are both, like you said, multimillionaires working for the same company who are in all likelihood being, you know, their managers are talking to each other about like how is
their
this going to
strings are being
unfold and
pulled.
whatnot. Like,
Yeah,
uh,
it was politics. It was, and you know what? Let it be what it is. I'm not here to change what it is, and I've
yeah,
always been an advocate of music styles that are less popular, because we all have a place in this world. We all deserve to be creative, and what, even if nobody else in the world vibes with what you're creating, you have a right to create it, right?
yeah,
And it was in that moment with this Kendrick and Drake shit that I was like, okay, I had to really quantify the fact that I might have to create some distance for my own sanity from hip hop.
sure. And so is that is I mean, I feel like when a lot of people think of okay, what's hip hop, they're thinking of very mainstream kind of the cliches that everybody sees in kind of the top 10 billboard charts of hip hop or whatever, right?
Hmm.
But I think, you know, guys like you or I probably know that hip hop goes deeper than just what the mainstream portrayal of it is, right? And
100%.
and so was it just kind of getting away from that mainstream vibe that you needed to do, like to step outside of those kind of boxes, or
Not even, because, you know, as hip hop started to progress, so did people's expectations. And I feel that even though we're seeing, you know, all the money seems to exist in all of this tasteless stuff that like doesn't necessarily have any passion or, you know, consideration for like the listeners, or like, you know, personally I like to make music that makes you think, right?
yeah,
And like, but now that's preachy, which is fine. That just means that I'm now niche and no longer hip hop. Now I'm niche. That's
right,
okay. But does that, do I always want to be preachy though? Fuck no.
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
But
and so it's
and
like
I always think
I
there's a
don't.
time and place for both of it, right? Like that nobody wants to be preached to when they're in the club trying to turn up and have a good
Yeah,
time, or when it's party time. So I
yeah,
feel like you need both of those lanes happening, and that they're both under the umbrella of hip hop, really. Uh, you know, because right from the jump, like hip hop was a party culture. It was born out of these parties in Brooklyn or whatever, right? Like,
hell yeah,
uh,
party and
so
bullshit.
yeah, right. I mean, I think it took a while before like Rakim and stuff started kind of trying to drop gems of knowledge into the music as well, and then kind of it took into a couple different lanes where there was like, okay,
Even
there's
KRS-One, even KRS-One, the teacher,
yeah, yeah,
his first song,
exactly,
what da da da, he's
yeah.
beefing, you know what I mean?
Listen to the 9 millimeter go bang. Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, no, everyone has to evolve, right? And I think cultures, especially like these musical cultures, there's a lot of ebbs and flows, and
yeah.
I'm maybe not necessarily with this particular ebb. That's all.
Fair enough,
But
man.
it's nice and refreshing, because now, you know what, I get to fucking make a country song if I should so choose. I'm an Albertan.
Yeah.
I think it's my birthright.
I
You know what I'm saying?
mean, we're supposed to have a regional sound, right? Like you're supposed to have your region sound. So,
I spent 5 years of my 20s partying my fucking face off. I feel I have a right to make an EDM track if I want.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's if you're making music tailored to your experience, you're genuine as it comes. It's as soon as you start stepping out of your zone of familiarity that you start to be capping.
I think that there are still big acts who are doing stuff in multiple different lanes. Like you kind of mentioned that it's starting to open up where people are kind of doing whatever they want, right? Like Tyler the
General
Creator, or like there's guys who are just kind of making whatever weird art they want to make sometimes. And
Post Malone.
yeah, sure. And even album to album, right? I think there's no reason that an artist can't do one album this way, another album that way, right? 808s and Heartbreaks kind of started that whole, people were like, what is Kanye doing here? And now, now he's on some whole other thing where people are like, what is Kanye doing here? But, I think there's no reason that an artist has to stay locked in one lane anymore. And also, I think there's a lot of different lanes that are thriving right now, right? Like there's dudes who are making that like boom bap traditional sound still, and Griselda is the biggest kind of shining
Griselda's
example that's really doing numbers. But
you ever
in
heard
the
of
underground,
Yamazawa, by the way, you ever heard of G Yamazawa?
Yamazawa, no, I mean it rings a bell, but I can't place why.
I'm not even sure how big he is, but he's dope. He's like this like half Japanese dude. He's from the South somewhere in the States. And yeah, he's really tastefully doing boom bap in the present. Check him out when you have a minute. Yeah,
nice.
My wife, he put me onto him actually.
Dude, at this point, I spend like seriously like 7, 8, 9 hours every week just trying to keep up to the Canadian hip hop scene. There's so much music that comes out across the country every fucking week that it's all I can do to listen to it. And like, I don't find that I have a ton of time to listen to a bunch of American artists at this point, which is something I never thought.
Fair.
Like 10 years ago, I couldn't wrap my
problem.
mind around that thought. But there's so much good music coming out of Canada that, like, we just need to shine more light on it and try to get more people tapped in, because there are guys making boom bap. There's an entire Toronto scene making like really dope boom bap. Guys like Raz Fresco and Ason Eastwood and Danielson. Like these guys are making quality kind of traditional sounding boom bap, and a lot of the time you see lists of like the top Toronto rappers, and those guys are nowhere on it, but they're still selling their vinyl out every time they drop, right? So I think there's still plenty of lanes for people to be in. It's just a question of which you want to do.
I think that was another big part of my evolution, was kind of deciding, like, as you get older, you kind of reevaluate what the goal is, right? I want to remain within reach of it. So it's like, you get a better understanding of how the industry works. You realize just like how saturated it actually truly is, so you spend your time, talent over, whatever. You hone your craft, and then another year you fucking, sorry, I'm just...
Oh, he's gone. Small commercial break here, folks. I hope he'll be right back. We'll fix it in post-production. Very high-tech stuff. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you though, dude, unless you can remember exactly what you were talking about, do we need a reset or?
No, well, my headphones aren't working, so I'm just gonna casually work on this while I... Do you remember what we were talking about?
I mean, I remember whereabouts we were talking about. I wanted to ask you kind of as a follow-up of what we were saying there about just kind of the different lanes of hip-hop and how, you don't need to fit in any particular category to necessarily be hip-hop, I don't think. But I wanted to ask you, like, is this new album hip-hop? Do you classify it as hip-hop? Because it's a blurry line for me. When I'm listening to music every week, I'm like, is this hip-hop enough for me to play on a hip-hop show? I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? There's a couple songs that I think could make it, like Promise. Promise, I think, could be considered hip-hop. But I don't think, when people started asking me about it, and quickly I started saying that it's urban. It's not hip-hop, but it encompasses a lot of different styles. And so someone that I really respect in my life once said, just put it out and let them classify it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's a good
that
strategy.
helped me to step back a little bit from, you know, where. Oh my God! 1 second.
No worries.
This same guy. No, I'm
No,
just gonna.
it's just
1 second. I'm just gonna shoot this guy a text while.
somebody blowing your phone up while you're trying to talk.
Yes, dude. Like
Yeah,
fucking
that happens. All good.
have some couth, young man.
Tell them to tap in and ask questions on Twitch. I'll ask questions from Twitch chat if people have
Right.
any
Exactly.
questions over there.
All right. Yeah. No. Anyway, but yeah, I think it's a really exciting time because I actually do have an opportunity to just be who I want to be and say what I want to say, and I don't necessarily even have to be preaching anymore because it's no longer this outward facing message. Like I'm literally just making this stuff so that I can survive my day to day, because every job I've ever worked in my life is just a fucking way to pay my bills. It's never
Yeah,
been something I've ever been passionate about, and music has always been that thing. So, like,
dude, I
you
feel
know,
like every musician on earth has to relate to that one. I think we've
oh,
all just picked up shovels to pay the bills and
it's torturous.
whatever. Yeah,
And but you know, it is what it is. You got to survive. But I'm just hoping that one day I get to just wake up and just vibe. You know, take
yeah.
breaks, hang out with my kids, fucking get
Hell
back to
yeah.
work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. So let's talk more about the project specifically. Like, you named it Water. The first track sounds like, it sounds like a birth situation. Is it a water birth that we're listening to as the intro of that album?
That's actually a really cool insight. That wasn't what it was designed to be, but I guess like for all intents and purposes, like it was meant to be your initial submersion into, you know, what is this project, right? Like your first big breath and deep dive into water.
Yeah,
The main goal for all these waterscapes was, again, this whole thing was just me growing up. And you know what, like, you see me drinking and smoking and doing all the bad things right now, but I do value um water. I value things that are good for you, and I wanted to declare my loyalty to those things, the things that like create us and the things that like sustain us. And
yeah, man.
and I and you know, one of the first things that we were developing this project, and we wanted to like literally sell the album physical copies as like QR codes on physical actual water bottles. And it's like
Pretty
water.
smart, man. Yeah,
Water is life. Water. Drink it. You need it. Water. You know what I mean?
good
Like,
marketing too. Yeah,
right?
mm,
But like it was right at the heart of COVID and all this, you know, I'm also trying to start a green initiative. So I'm not trying to make single-use plastic bottles to promote my album. It just kind of clashed with some of my other belief systems.
sure.
Um, but one of the underlying goals was I want the listener to crave water while they listen. Um, and because the whole point of music is to like instill, to like basically transfer the data, which is the mood or the emotion, you know? And
Yeah,
the emotion was just this like, life is tough. Like life is fucking really tough. And just like water, life is like, it can carry you and nurture you, but it can fucking violently murder you.
yeah. Right.
Like
The Bruce
it
Lee
can
quote. That was
nurture
what
you,
I was thinking of too. Right.
it
The
can nurture you
slow
and
or
sustain
crash
you.
thing.
It can
Yeah,
drown you,
yeah,
right? Um, you know what I mean? You need it, but you have to respect it. Whether or not you like it, you need it.
yeah.
So
Definitely.
respect,
And
right?
as we get into our 30s, we start thinking more about like, oh, I should be drinking 8 glasses of water a day or
Full
whatever.
disclosure, bro,
Stay
I'm pretty sure I
hydrated.
passed my first kidney stone the other day. So yeah, I feel that more than anything right
Yeah,
now.
hell yeah, man. And if you're not drinking enough water, the hangovers hurt extra. Yeah, but
But
the beauty of good art though is that we get to interpret it in all sorts of ways. So whether it's me thinking that that was a water birth, or like I
well,
was.
I think actually that's a really profound interpretation of the project, because it really was like the birthplace of the start of a lot of change in my life. And so like I really I don't even want to say too much about what it actually meant, because I think that particular interpretation is beautiful. And I
Yeah,
hope that I hope just like all the music I make, if I choose to put it out to the people, into the world, I hope that whatever they take from it, it's applicable into their own perspective.
for sure. I sometimes ask, about specific bars or whatever, but I hate doing it because I know personally I don't want to explain bars that I've written to anybody.
Eh,
And so I've asked like on threads whether people want to hear about what specific bars mean or not. Because to me, like you said, art is it's supposed to be open to people's interpretation, and people should take what they take from it. But
I'll tell you
apparently,
what.
people
Tell you
love
what.
to hear it.
I'll
People
tell you
love
what.
to hear the bar breakdown.
I'll tell you what. You can ask me about any bar you want, but you got to tell me what you think it means first.
Well, honestly, I didn't prepare any of them for this one, so I'm not even going to put you on the spot like that. I think it's the other interpretation that I had of why you might have named it water was just the fluid nature of life and how you're changing from one kind of form to another or whatever, right? That it's you know water's ability to adapt to whatever you put it in, whatever container you put it in, and slow or crash, like Bruce Lee said, and all that, right? Uh,
Yeah.
it's
And
a
again,
very yeah.
that's wild. It's wildly applicable, even though that wasn't the original goal of
Yeah,
water. So that's really cool.
right on, man. Um, so you self-produced all the beats for it, or who did beats for this project?
So there were three hands involved in the composition. There was me, there was Kreipel, and then there was another former student from that course who my teacher put me in touch with. His name is Spencer Basinius. Very talented dude. Very, very talented dude. Um, yeah, and it was the Kreipel beats are pretty much all his, with the exception of maybe one piano riff that I helped with, just because the timbre was too hard and we needed it softer. So I just recomposed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then I would be in the studio making beats and stuff. And in terms of like mixing, I'm like not all there yet. So I would bring my beats and my ideas to Spencer, and he would like then take it and like turn it into like a tangible, digestible sound. You know what
nice.
I mean? So smooth over the edges, and he would add and subtract, and so we definitely co co-composed, co-produced those songs. Those ones being the first one on the project was Go Inside. That was the very first one.
I
And
just played that on At last week. That was one that I thought was hip hop enough that I was going to play it. I mean, sounded good to me, man.
nice, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
But
man.
yeah, so he was actually showing me beats, and I was just like, "Oh, this is beautiful." And I had a hook written that fit beautifully, and we were in class. It was almost like a public display, like because he walked in and he was reviewing some of our music, and he started playing his own beats, and I'm like, "Yo!" And the teacher was like, "Go ahead," and I started singing my little hook, and Spencer's eyes lit up, and he's like, "That's dope." I was like, "What's up?" And
Yeah, it's
he's like,
catchy as hell, dude. I walk around singing the shit. It pops into my head as I'm fucking walking down the street or whatever. So yeah, you definitely did well on the hook. Yeah.
"Thank you, thank you."
I did want to ask though, dude, about kind of engineering school in general, because I talked to a guy from Halifax. His name's Hermit of the Woods, and he told me, and I cut it into a clip that I've got on Instagram right now. But he talked about how like he went to engineering school and how it was a lot of other stuff. But what he really took away from it was like, okay, thanks for teaching me how to use the MPC. I'll be over here making beats now. And he kind of joked about how like it was a really expensive way to learn how to make beats. What was your takeaway from going to a professional engineering course?
Well, you have to understand that when I entered this course, I'd already been on three cross country tours.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? already put out 4
Been in
albums.
real studios and worked with people who know what they're doing, right?
You know what I mean? Like, and so like I had a firm grasp on kind of what I wanted out of the course. And so there is a lot available usually. It's like a general course. You can do like Foley work, which is like sound effects for music or for
Right.
video. You can do like sound design, which is making this which is like making those sound effects. You can do like you can do beat making, you can do production, you can do like there's so many different avenues in production. And so, you know, I narrowed it down really quickly. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to produce because I was already an artist. I didn't really want to do Foley work because I wasn't anywhere in film, even though I find it really fascinating. And it was just, and beats like Kriple was making beats. Why the fuck would I try to make beats when the best beat maker in the fucking city is like right next to me and I have full access to?
Right.
And so, but you know what? It ultimately my experience was similar. Like it it taught me a lot of the rudimentary stuff, mixing theory, taught me a lot of music theory, taught me a lot of that cool stuff. But and it taught me, you know, mixing, like mixing engineer. That's another thing. And they covered a little bit. So it taught me a lot about mixing. I mixed a few of my own tracks, like for a couple buddies and for myself or whatever. I do demos now of my in my house, and but ultimately, I think the the strongest takeaway for me was that I learned the most important thing that I learned was that I do not want to fucking mix or engineer. Period. Period, fam. I
Even though you're
fucking
doing demos in your house for other people, you just said
I
you don't like
I
doing it.
I don't. It's just not like it's not. There's no passion in it for me. But the coolest part about it was I all of a sudden knew how to communicate properly to these engineers.
Okay.
Like before I went to the studio, I was like, look, man, look, this is what I need. You hear that
Yeah.
part? I want it to be like, and I want the pew pew pew
Right.
and I want you to and I want it big. You know, I want to make it big. Now I can just be like, I need it muddier than normal. I would like a delay here. I'd like you to do, you know what I mean? Like
Add some reverb over here and just knowing the terms, right? Yeah.
I know now that I would rather just tell somebody what I want and let them do it, um, rather than spend countless hours doing it myself, only to be frustrated with it. Ultimately, to hire somebody to do it anyway.
That's interesting because you started talking about this project as how it was like really hands-on, your baby, you know, the exact way you did it. So I was kind of thinking like, okay, so it makes sense he went to engineering school so that he can engineer himself rather than going to somebody else to do it or whatever.
This is actually dope. I'm glad you brought this up because, like I said, I took the digital audio production course. So my role in this final project was to oversee the production. Now, I did mention that I was also the artist, and I wanted to
Right.
make a Trippz project with that, you know, with my time. So, really early in the game, I hollered at my man Chubbs at Soundproof Studios. Um, very talented engineer, very talented guy. And he just honestly, like, he just like let me live there. Like, I would pull up there, like after all the recording and everything was done, he would just like let me pull up there when he didn't have any other sessions, and I would just basically be on call. And I would be just doing my own thing, and he would call me like now, and I'd be like, "Kate, fuck you, I'm out." Anywhere I was, I would just stop what I'm doing and just go to the studio, and that's where I spent most of my time. Um, and we would just mix. And Spencer, we broke it up in half. So Spencer mixed the songs that he had more of a hand in, and Chubbs mixed all the other songs. And then Spencer would get it to a place where it's ready to master, bring it to Chubbs. Chubbs mastered everything. But I was incredibly blessed to have Chubbs at my disposal. Otherwise, I would have had to engineer it myself. I would have had to mix it myself, and we wouldn't be having an interview about it today, I bet, because I would have probably gotten out of school and then gone and re-recorded it somewhere else, or I would have given up on it entirely, or whatever. Because as a creative, you get bogged up in the mechanics. It's no
Yeah.
longer a passion project for you. So
Yeah.
it was dope. I oversaw all of the mixing engine. I was there. I was like, yeah, we need more of this. We need the sauce. I was learning how to communicate with him at the time, so it was actually kind of like a fun process where like I would show up and I'm like, I know what a comb filter is today. And he's like, those are shit. Don't ever use them. And I'm like, bullshit. And we actually used one in the album. Like, so it's like, you know what I mean? So it was like, it was a really immersive process where I would go to school and then I would leave school and I would go to the stew, the professional stew. None of these other students knew any fucking idea what the fuck a real studio looked like. There was a studio at the school, but it was just a fucking computer in the middle of a room. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was bare bones. And so that I still did produce the whole thing, right? But I instead hired, like, I didn't hire shit. He, like, out of the courtesy of his own fucking heart, like, took me in like an orphan, and I fucking just lived at the studio and we got it done. But I hired a producer and oversaw the completion of the project.
So
And
how long of
so
a process was it from start to finish?
the program itself was 5 months, I believe, and it was a full time. So you'd show up at 8:30, you'd leave at like 3:30, which was dope. It was the only time in school that I'd ever wanted to be there.
Yeah, actually
Yeah.
happy to be in school. Yeah,
Yeah, dude. I was there early. I left late. I was that guy. And all the other students were annoyed because I'd ask so many questions and, you know, really get the most out of my time. But yeah, it was. My biggest takeaway was that I don't want to engineer, and that I now have like a process for creating a project. Like, never would I waste my time doing shit I know I don't want to do now. Right.
right. So just stick to the writing, let other people handle, and at least now you have the vocabulary to describe your vision to the people who are
Exactly.
handling the engineering side. Yeah, that
So
makes
it
sense.
was a valuable experience. Was it worth the money I fucking spent on it? Probably not. Like, if I really had the self discipline, I could have probably picked all that up on YouTube. But I made some really good relationships out of it. Like, the
Yeah,
same person instructed me in that course I'm doing some work with right now. You know what I mean? Like, he's like got his own facility. It's called the Teaching Room. He's been, you know, he's doing courses, and ultimately he's like investing his time in me, and like we're figuring out my next move. And he's, you know what I mean? So like, that's a very, very valuable relationship that I got out of that course, and I would have never gotten it had I not gone to the course.
yeah.
So
I've never went and taken one of those courses, but I've got a lot of friends who have. And from my point of view, it's always seemed like one of the most beneficial things that you get out of one of those courses is just being around all those other people who are passionate about music, and you
yeah,
can build some relationships and you know, walk away knowing some other people who know music very well anyways. Yeah.
hell yeah.
um how about your writing process, dude? What does writing look like for you? Do you tend to kind of write to a beat already? Are you writing just to nothing and then finding a beat that works for it? I don't
Yes,
know. Yeah. Both
yes.
those things. Yeah.
All of the processes, and like, it honestly just depends on what I'm doing. Like, if I'm doing work for somebody else, then chances are there's a fully constructed song there waiting for me to just add, and so I'll just play the beat. Like, usually they'll have the song and I'll be like, just give me the beat. I already know the topic and I'll just write to the beat. If it's like one of my songs, like where I'm creating from scratch, like, um I, you know, sometimes, like, when I'm about my day, I have like a notepad that any just like quick little bullet form idea that I have, I'll just put in there, and then sometimes I'll, you know, elaborate and extrapolate from there.
Yeah.
Um, but other times, I don't have an idea until I hear the music. So sometimes I have the idea that needs the music, and sometimes I have the music that needs the idea. So
Real. Goes
yeah.
both ways for sure. Yeah. This is kind of just like an ego test that I've started asking people that I think is fun. But when's the last time you wrote a bad verse?
Oh man, they're peppered all over my shit. Like, they're all over. Like, for every verse you hear, there are at least 5 verses that will never see the light of day.
Heard. So plenty of bad verses in the phone that'll stay locked in the phone. Then yeah,
Oh yeah.
makes sense. How famous are you trying to be? When I talked to Kripel and I asked him a question along these lines, he was like, "Aren't we all trying to be as famous as we fucking can be? The point is to just get as much music out to as many people as you can, isn't it?" And I said, like, I don't know. I don't think some artists would answer it that way, dude. But how
Look,
famous are you
man,
trying
I
to be?
want my music to be fucking worldwide, generationally known forever. I want
Yeah,
my music to I want my music to be around so long it becomes fucking public domain because my entire bloodline was outlived by my music. But do I want to be that famous? Fuck no. That's a problem. That's why I was like, that was one of the first reasons I wanted to kill off Trippz, because I was like, I want to gorillas myself.
Right.
I want to be fucking, I want to just be some sort of an entity that I don't want to actually be. I would love to tour and I'd love to do all that shit, but realistically, as I get older, I just want my core 1,000. I just want to be able to pay my fucking bills with my creativity and enjoy my life.
Weird.
That's the fundamental truth. But is there a cap to the success? Fuck no. Let it come. Let the success come. If it comes, it's coming. Let it come. But if I could control it, like, I would love to go to the mall by myself and not worry about
not be recognized.
That. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think MF Doom, you know, that's a legendary take on how to achieve that, or like you said, the gorillas, and now we're in the AI era, so like, you know, you could have the AI filter on right now. I don't really know how to set it up, but I've seen people do that shit. So you know, you could be anything you like, man.
That's true. Well, if Trippz disappears one day, then I guess you'll have to start guessing. You know.
Only the real fans will recognize the voice in the new music or whatever. Like, I think that's him.
Yeah, exactly.
How about sorry, I'm just looking down my questions here, trying to figure out what else I should ask you. I have no idea how long we've been talking to each other either, because of I don't really know when we actually started this or whatever. So, yeah, well, I'll try to get through this and get on to the next thing, man. Let you go here soon enough. Well, let's ask about Doom Squad. Will there ever be more Doom Squad music?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like, is there more Doom Squad music that could be released? Yes. You know, I don't know. That's a hard one to answer without my brothers here with me to answer with me. That's not really a decision I can make alone.
Sure.
You know? Yeah.
How about you personally? You personally would be up for making more Doom Squad music?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. It was, bro, I got this one. I got this one. You know, it's all, like,
you guys got it tatted. Yeah.
It's a big part of my history. And yeah, I think if the conditions are permissive, if you know, if we were all had mutual interests and, you know, we all had our head in the game and everything lines up nice, and it's gotta feel good. Like, that was the problem with growing up like growing up and like with all these people, like, all these boys they're my brothers, right? But as we get older, we realize, like, that it's not always sunshine and rainbows, and, you know, every time we go on tour, there's an impact here at home, and it's gotta make sense.
Yeah, that's a good answer, dude. How about this? What's something that comes to mind you're grateful for in your artistic journey up to this point?
It's a hard one. I'm grateful for everything. I'm grateful for all of it. But I think, you know what, in the majority of the people that I've talked to in the world, I'll say it like this. To be an artist, to try to be a full-time artist, takes a great deal of sacrifice. And there's a lot of shit that you got to give up, including, like, the social normalcy, like the social, like, most of my friends outside of music, they have, you know, the wife, and they have their kids are all in high school or, like, moving out, or, like, they're moving on to their next phase of their life, which is travel and getting to enjoy their partner and have enjoying the home that they paid for, that they're, you know, I have friends that are homeowners that are my age, that are homeowners.
Damn.
And that means a lot, because for them to have actually done that, this had to have happened right out of fucking high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but most of these people that I talk to, man, when we compare our lives like that, like not compare, but like when we just share our experiences, man, most of these people whom I envy sometimes with their stability, they look at me and they go, "Wow, dude, that's the dream, though, right?" Like most of these people, they look at me and they go, "I don't know what the fuck I want to do out here, like you do. I'm just existing." But for an artist, that's their biggest fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think the thing that I'm most grateful for is, despite how hard it gets, I live a really unique life. Despite how many artists exist in the world, I still feel like my situation is rather unique from the majority of the people that surround me.
I mean, just being in Edmonton checks that box, I think, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, how about is hip hop a young man's game, or is ageism in hip hop done as we start seeing, some of these legends continue to keep knocking out good music into their whatever 40s and 50s?
Well, I think ageism is just going to exist between generations, regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless of culture it's attached to. I think that ageism is just something that we as feeble-minded humans just are kind of at the mercy of, right? Like your ego gets ahead of you. You compare yourself to the next man, and the next thing you know, you're making judgments, right? And then all of a sudden, an entire society builds up an expectation, and if you don't meet that expectation, you fucked it up.
Yeah.
But any person that is truly that knows themselves knows that they exist far beyond this invisible expiry date that doesn't actually exist, right? Like it's like past your prime. Like, bro, shut the fuck up. Not you, but like Gary Vaynerchuk is another one of those dudes that really advocates. Like, most people are really getting it in their 50s, in 60s.
Yeah.
Most people are like really figuring it out, really know what the fuck they're doing here, over there. And you think you're done at 30? Grow the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like that. It's like, no, you know
Never
what?
done, man. There's never a final point, right? I mean, I guess when we lay
Exist.
down and die, that's the final point. But yeah.
The ageism is going to continue to exist, but the people that believe in that narrative weren't meant to be listeners of my music.
Yeah.
If I'm 34 and that's a problem for you, bye.
Yeah, makes sense, dude. Yep. How about this one's had some funny answers. What's the most annoying thing about being a rapper, specifically in Canada, in Edmonton? What's the most annoying thing of being a rapper up here?
People just assume you suck. I don't know why. But if you're a rapper that's not like a rapper, like bitches and chains and whatever, and whatever
Right.
people perceive rappers to be, if you're not that, you aren't good.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not pulling up in a Lambo, they automatically assume that you must not have bars or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that answer. How about any predictions for what's coming next in hip hop?
You know what? What happens in hip hop is really synonymous with what happens in society. And I think there's going to be a great divide in society. I think there's going to be a big collapse of a lot of systems that we know. And I think that there's going to be, out of that, is going to be a very radical sense of unity
Yeah.
that's birthed from that turmoil that we're going to see. You
Here's
know what?
hoping.
And obviously, like I just said, life is synonymous with musical culture, but let's speak about musical culture. I think that in musical culture, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. And there's going to be a lot of people getting exposed, and there's going to be a lot of large names, large brands, large companies that are going to fall, collapse,
Yeah.
and out of the ashes are gonna be, you know, some really solid people. And I think that all of these people already exist. We just don't have a voice because, you know, the money is the loudest voice right now.
I hope so, man. I think it's about time that some of these big labels kind of fall out of being so prevalent. Like, it's a little bit gross to me that people won't listen to anything unless the billionaires tell them it's what's cool at this point, But yeah, I hope that what you said happens and we get some unity and rising out of those ashes, because I think it should be the independent era. It should be the direct to fans era. It should be the era when everybody can find a niche of listeners that are out there. You know, the internet allows all that so easily.
Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change.
Yeah, yeah, that's a gem, man. That's a gem. How about this? Do you think I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different artists lately about politics in music and political messages in music. Do you feel like there's a place for that?
There's a place for everything, bro.
Yeah,
But do is my
I
place?
guess for you, how about specifically? Yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Um, I think politics affect me. I would be naive to think that they don't,
sure.
but I don't get my overall message, which I believe to be above politics. It's about humanity, you know. I
Yeah,
believe I believe that the further I can be from, you know, current political events, the better that I will feel about it.
yeah, smart. I think that's a good way to maintain sanity. I think, man. Um, How about okay, so let's get into I do a segment called How Important. So it's like how important is this or how important is that? You can be as long-winded or as brief as you want to with these answers, but how important is having a good stage show for an MC?
Oh, that's a tenor.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Okay. Oh no. Okay. It was. It used to be a tenor. Now, not so much. Now, maybe like a 6 or 7. Um, because people are still filling venues even if they suck.
Right.
So,
If they have that viral hit, people will show up to sing the 8 seconds they know from TikTok or whatever, right?
but like we came up on solid performance. Like we
Yeah.
Doom Squad aspired to emulate uh Red and Meth on stage.
Okay.
That was who
Yeah.
we that was who we wanted to be as put together on stage as they are.
That's a
You
high
know what I mean?
bar. Yeah. Red and Meth have a great show.
Yeah.
So much chemistry. Yeah.
Oh man.
Um, I mean, I've seen you guys live, and yeah, I can tell that's something you're aiming at there. That makes sense, man. That makes sense.
That.
Um, about how important is getting grants for Canadian
Oh
artists?
man. As a Canadian, you're stupid not to. That's the tenor. That's a tenor. As much as I don't really want more competition, you're fucking retarded if you're a musician that's serious about making music, but who doesn't have the financial means to make music.
Yeah,
You're dumb. Just give up now. Quit now. If you're a broke artist that wants nothing more to make music and you haven't explored grants, shut up. Go be a fucking go work a fucking forklift already. Get over it.
yeah,
Grant, very important.
sure. Um, well, and I mean, there are lots of guys who are getting grants and working a forklift too.
That's true.
That's true. So you can do both. Get all that money, but yeah, free
Give
money.
up. If you're a Canadian and you're serious about music and you don't have infinite money, then you're very stupid for not exploring grants. That's
Right,
all I'll say.
right. How about how important is getting streaming numbers up?
It's important, man. Um, like advertising is on Spotify is in tiers. And right now I don't qualify for a particular tier of advertising because I don't have 25,000 monthly listeners.
Right.
Yeah. But once you hit 25,000 monthly listeners, oh wow, guess the opportunity that you get. You know what I mean?
So it's an advertising tier. So you won't they take your money to advertise if you're below a certain mark or what? Sure,
Well,
they're
they take
happy to
your money
take
to
your money.
advertise.
Yeah.
They take your money to advertise regardless. But it seems to be algorithmically not worth their time if you don't have a certain followership.
Okay.
But it's on top of that, it's leverage. Your streams, it's your leverage. It's your streams are how much you can charge for a show, how much you can charge for a feature, how much you sell your merch for. Your streams dictate your worth. So 10,
100%.
11,
Yeah.
fucking
I like that. How
you
about
can't buy the streams. They have to be organic.
yeah, definitely, man. People can tell when people are buying streams. At least people who are paying attention can tell. Yeah.
There's buying streams and then there's paying for ads. They're the exact same thing, but they're not. pay for ads, don't buy streams.
Yeah. If you're going to spend money, yeah, spend it on ads for sure. How about how important is winning industry awards? From the local like Edmonton Music Awards all the way up to the Junos or whatever else.
I think it's really nice on the ego. I think once you get into the higher tier awards like the Junos, then that's leverage. You can then get on Fiverr as a session artist, and you can charge people more for your works, right? Like if you have a Juno, all of a sudden you know what I mean. Like you may not get more work, but you qualify to value yourself more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. About how important is it?
Just saying, just nominate me. I put it out. Nominate me. I'll get next year's Juno. It'll be good. Anyway.
I was nominated to be, not nominated to be. I was put forth to the Juno committee as someone who should be a Juno judge. So I filled out the application. They emailed me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to be a Juno judge." And I was like, "I'd love to be a Juno judge." Fucking, I believe nobody knows more about the Canadian scene than I do at this point in time. Like, maybe they know more about the history, but they're not paying as much fucking attention week to week, right? So,
you're a top contender, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. But I never heard back from them after that. They sent it was an email from somebody at the Junos, and I know Arlo, who I'm talking to on Tuesday, put me up. Him and DJ Cosm said like, yeah, Doobyis should be fucking one of the judges for the hip hop category, but maybe next year, maybe down the line. Who knows?
Who knows, right?
But yeah, man. How about how important is it that listeners understand your lyrics?
That's another one that used to be really important, but it really doesn't matter to me at all now. It really doesn't matter to me at all now. Like I'll get weirdly petty and insecure if like there's like, oh, okay, so for example, there's the song on Water called Simplify. It's a really out of pocket song, but I needed to put it out. And the lyrics in the hook is at the end of the hook, it says, "Just go make it." But a lot of people thought I said, "Just go naked." And that bothers me. But like I don't not enough to like you know what I mean? Like not enough for me to correct people. Like I don't care. Like it my most insecure version of myself is like, no, that's not the lyrics. But I don't actually care. Like I'm just happy you're listening.
I mean, just go naked too. Why not? Just
naked. Go do it. I'm just happy to have you here.
That's your thing. Go to town. How important is being friends with people who you make music with? Like being actual friends with the people you're making music with.
I don't think it's really necessarily important, and I say that because most of the people that I made music with, I didn't know before I made music with them, and now we are friends.
Right.
Music be the catalyst in a lot of my friendships.
Yeah, that checks out. How about how important is it that an artist writes their own bars?
Not only do I think that's like a 0 or like a -3, I think it's like a super duper ick.
Not important at all?
To rate your own bar. To rate your own bars. An
artist writing their own bars? You don't care at all if somebody wrote their own shit?
I thought you said to rate your own bars.
No, to write them. Like not have a ghostwriter or whatever.
Here's what I'll say. I'll say that in the grand scheme of things, it's not important at all. I'd say that in reality, it's not important. Hasn't been for a long time. I think that the people that are making music because of the way that it feels, it's very important to them. But I'm trying to fucking sell my own lyrics to famous musicians myself. So to be against be a contradiction to some of my goals. It would be naive of anyone to think that the major industry players aren't in a room full of literally 50, 75 people composing the perfect music, right? Like, it's a different world. Everyone's writing everything. So, if we're talking about hip hop for the love, then it's very important. But if we're talking about music in the industry, It's the last thing to even consider. Everyone walks into the fucking room and does a split sheet, and that's the end of it.
Do you really think that there aren't, goat level MCs or people who are in that goat conversation who are writing their own bars? Like, you think all
Oh
those
yeah,
guys are using ghostwriters?
a lot of people are writing their own bars, but I think in the grand scheme of things, nobody cares.
Okay.
Nobody's only the heads are going to check who in the credits who's
Right.
actually involved. Nobody cares. Most people are playing individual songs on their playlist uh uh to act as like an accessory to their day. Everyone's just trying to soundtrack their day. Nobody gives a fuck who wrote what. No, that's why AI has a fucking foot in music,
Yeah.
because nobody fucking cares. Everything is awesome. It's cool
Dude,
when
the
you're part of
AI
the team.
is getting scary good at how well it can write bars. Like, oof.
It's wild.
Yeah. I saw a guy on TikTok who had got it to, he told it, like, write me bars in this, I don't know, as intricate as Eminem or something. And then he had a different AI program actually wrap the shit for him and deliver those bars. And I listened to it and was like, oh, fuck, this is going to complicate my job over here choosing what music to play for people if people start doing this more often, because I couldn't have told you it wasn't a real person and they're real bars. Like,
I actually
it, yeah,
I
kind of
actually
mind
wrote
blowing.
and I collaborated with ChatGPT on that song. And the topic of that song was whether or not AI has a future in music and what that means for us.
How did that turn out?
It's actually on my TikTok. It's called well, I don't. It doesn't have a name because it's on my TikTok. But yeah, it's on my TikTok and my Instagram. But yeah, it's called Imposter Syndrome, and I
Yeah.
haven't put it up. But yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
The brave new world out there, man.
It
About how important is opening for big name rappers when they come through town?
looks good on a resume. Doesn't mean a fucking thing.
Yep, yep, sounds about right. Um, how important is an artist's physical location?
Well, you'd think that with the internet, it wouldn't matter, but it seems to still matter.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give that a good 8.
Okay. Um, couple more of these. How important is being physically fit for an artist?
Well, these days it doesn't seem to matter. These days it seems to actually sometimes it works in your favor in terms of your exposure,
Right.
because then all fat rapper does cool thing is the headline, right?
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
like crazy fat. There's a rapper, I don't even know his name, but one of the homies were chatting about it, and I was incoherently listening that there's some rapper that like can't even stand who's on tour right now. He's so fucking fat.
Pulling the big pun, right? Big pun used to ride out on a moped or whatever,
That's wicked.
right? um, about how important is having or finding the right romantic partner for an artist?
Well, you need a teammate. You need someone that's gonna fuck, I hate saying this because it's so basic, but you need a ride or die, like someone that's willing to be there in the turmoil of it all long enough and to love you unconditionally, long enough to reap the reward with you.
Right. Yeah,
But
man.
that's rare, and you never really know. So when it comes to love, I guess maybe want to just chance it anyway.
Okay. One more of these. Let's do how important is planning the rollout for an album?
Oh man, it's so important. God damn it. But I didn't do that once. I didn't for water, I didn't do that at all. Because I told you the specific situation, and it just
Yeah.
needed to. Actually, fun fact. Beyond the success of the rollout, it is important. I would call it a 9 or 10, but I will. So like, um, I I didn't do any pre promo. I didn't do anything for this project, um, because like I was saying, like one of the problems I was in, this last year. I'm in year 7 of just sitting on this album. I remastered it 3 fucking times, and I'm like, you know what? I need to release. I need to like make something different. I need to just step away from this project and just go make something new. And I couldn't. And it was it was a very intense writer's block. Like it was
Okay.
one of the most wasn't one of the most long lived, but it was one of the most intense writer's block I'd ever experienced. Where it was like, no, I couldn't even get to playing a beat where my brain would just like go blank, and like I would sit in my little designated office area, and before I even turned on my computer, I was lost. And the day within a few hours of me putting out the album, I found that shit was just coming to me. Like
Nice.
all, you know what I mean? And so like the rollout's really important, but it, you hit a certain line and it's detrimental to your entire career if you sit on it another minute.
Right.
So it's like, it's important, but you got to plan it and roll it out. Like planning and execution are two different things, and you have to be willing to bypass the execution if you don't fucking execute.
I mean, perfection is the enemy of completion, or some saying along those lines, right? Yeah. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I think I've probably kept you for more than an hour already. There's just a couple questions that I ask everybody before I let you go. Can you describe the local hip hop scene in Edmonton?
Um, yeah, booming, thriving, disconnected.
Yeah, that checks out from what I've seen. Lots of talent up there, but just in its
I
own
used to
little pockets, right? What did you say? You used to know what?
I used to know everybody. Now I don't know anybody.
Okay. No.
And that's the scene isn't to blame for that. I grew up and I'm not going out to the shows. I'm not meeting everybody. That's how it goes. I'm hoping that these younger guys are being as connected as we were, but it
Right.
doesn't feel that.
Yeah. I mean, probably having a couple kids, everybody tends to step away from the scene as they, get that family life going and whatever. A lot of people step completely away. It's impressive that you're putting an album out rather than just like a lot of people disappear for 10 years, 11 years until their child's old enough to take care of themselves, and then they come back to hip hop with that
Yeah,
energy
I
up. But
happen.
yeah, I do feel like a lot of people make their best music kind of though in like their 30s and in their kind of full adult life. It takes a while to get to a place where you're really able to
Fuck,
make the
bro.
art you want to make.
Glad that you're following along, man. Because like I said, this album that you're hearing now for the last 2 months, 7 years old.
Yeah.
Like you've no where my fucking head is right now. You've no idea like what's going on in here, and I'm so excited to show people like where I am musically.
Oh yeah. I'm excited to hear it, man. Keep sending music over. I'll keep playing it for people on AtSick or whatever and do what I can to
Uh,
spread the word. Yeah. Can you name some other artists from your scene who people should be up on?
Dude's fantastic. One of the most talented bar spitters, not only in Edmonton, but that I've ever met, ever.
Yeah.
Romangel. Romangel is crazy with it. He crazy with it. Holy fuck. Who else?
Is he still active? I mean, I know, I've watched
Oh,
Rome
I think
Angel's music through the years, but
I am. I'm pretty sure he's like pretty established in like a construction or like I don't want to put his shit out, but he's working. He's working
okay.
hard. He's doing a thing. And I don't know what else he's got going in life, but I know that he's been quite busy. I know that anytime he drops something, I'm like there. I'm there for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Word. Any plans for shows or tour or anything like that coming up? Anything that we can tell people to look out for?
um, yeah, I'm gonna definitely be booking some shows throughout the summer. Nothing crazy. I'm not booking a tour unless it makes sense. I'm not gonna go out there and come home broke and get evicted, and it's just
Yeah.
no. Miss me with that. But that being said, I'm not touring. I'm going to be focusing on putting out more consistent music and trying to work on like what kind of content I would like to make online and that kind of stuff. So just because you're not seeing me at the shows doesn't mean you're not going to be seeing more of me.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good quote, man. I've been on that tip for a long time. I support people, but a lot of it's kind of background. I'm out here to support from behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to support you or other artists that they like in 2025?
Oh man, if you see it, share it. That's all it is, man. We don't even care if you watch it. Just fucking share it.
Yeah,
Like, just share it, dude. But I'm definitely not the type of guy that's gonna pout if you don't. So share it or don't.
sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
I've heard people say though, if you're not gonna like hit like on a post or whatever, at least every once in a while as you scroll by, you're just training the algorithm that people don't want to see that artist shit. If you just see, oh, it's Trippz, and you scroll right by it without interacting at all, you could probably just hit unfollow because you're doing somebody a disservice by training
Basically,
the algorithm. Nobody wants to see it or whatever. So
basically, yeah. All
yeah,
my listeners have to get over the robot in order to get at me. So you just got to work harder at that. But
I
I'll work
like that,
harder
man.
at being more reachable on my end. So we'll do
Right.
this together.
Where can people find you most often on social media, man? That's the last question.
Uh, Honestly, probably still Facebook. Um, but I'm gonna be doing a lot more stuff on Instagram and TikTok in the coming weeks, months, years, until TikTok gets banned in Canada. I don't know, whatever. That's
Yeah,
right now, so that's where we're gonna be
sure. At Doom Trippz, right?
doing Trippz. Yeah. Trippz with it on TikTok.
TikTok. Okay. All right, man. Well, once again, thanks for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and really enjoyed the album. So, kudos on making a banger, man.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, man. I'll stay tuned if you do.
Hell yeah, I'll be around. Thanks, dude.
Much love.
Peace. All right, everybody. So thanks for coming by and hanging out for that one. Once again, I have no idea how long I just talked to Trippz for, because I don't really know when we started this thing, but I think it was over an hour here, as these things typically seem to be most days. I always tell the artists it's going to be an hour, and then we end up talking for longer, but I hope people have fun, as much fun as I'm having, and I do these things. Mostly they happen on Tuesdays. This was a Sunday afternoon one because things came up for the originally planned date, so we had to reschedule and bump it back a few days. But coming up here on March 25th, that's Tuesday, I'm talking to Arlo Maverick, another Edmonton-based MC. He doesn't have new music out that we're going to talk about. We're just going to talk mostly about the grant system and accessing grants and all that type of kind of behind-the-scenes finance for artist stuff. So it should be interesting. He definitely knows the ins and outs over there. April 1st, I'm talking to Calgary-based MC Halfcut. April 8th, talking to Toronto-based MC Danio. April 15th, Niagara Falls-based MC Ezza. And April 22nd, I talked to J.O., who was formerly known as J.O. Mares. I talked with him and Heavy G, who together are a group called Run and Gun. I think a season or two ago on Fly In Formation, quite a while ago now, but looking forward to talking to J.O. He's got a new album out. I believe it's called Maui. And yeah, we're going to talk about kind of the evolution of his music into this solo lane a little bit more. And then April 29th, I'm booked to talk to Vancouver-based MC Hardbody Dreams. That should be a good one as well. So make sure you come through twitch.tv/Doobyis, Doobyis, for anybody who's not seeing it written on the screen this entire time. If you're just listening to the audio, if you do want to just listen to the audio of these things and you are watching this, on YouTube or Twitch right now, but you just prefer to listen to podcasts in audio only format, you can always find these interviews included over at mixcloud.com/Doobyis behind every episode of After the Smoke is Clear. Actually, I think the episode 609 from a few days ago was the first episode this year that hasn't had an interview after it. And that was just because we had to bump this interview back. So we'll get back to an hour of music and then an hour of podcast interview, or an hour plus of podcast interview going forward over there, mixcloud.com/Doobyis. And of course, Doobyis.com is the hub for everything that I do. You can always check the post section there. I make posts about the weekly at sick radar. That's the 7 or 8 hours worth of music that I listen through every week. Normally, I'm hanging out on Twitch, kind of gaming or chilling and doing reaction style content as I listen through those. As well, in that post section, you'll find a post for every episode of After the Smoke is Clear and every episode of Fly in Formation. So I appreciate y'all coming through and showing support. If you enjoy shows like this, the only way that I'm spreading the word right now is word of mouth. I don't do paid advertising. Thinking about it soon, maybe, but if you know people who like hip hop and might be interested in learning more about the Canadian hip hop scene, tell them to tap in. I put a lot of time in just keeping up with artists across the country, and it's been a lot of fun for me doing it. So I appreciate everybody coming through to support. I'll catch you on the next one.